Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Flash Season 7 review series, and today I am going to be talking about episode 6, the one with the 90s, and this episode, half and half for me, I would say. This episode was half fun, but at the same time I wouldn't say it was bad, but I would say it was a little bit on the dry side, so to speak. There wasn't really a whole lot going on. But the fun part of this episode was seeing Cisco and Chester teleported back to 1998. So that was really fun and got a lot of cool references of the late 90s and seeing lots of cool places like blockbusters and technology shops selling all computers and hi-fi equipment. So that side of the episode was quite fun because that touched into my inner 90s self, so I enjoyed that aspect of the episode. And the other side of the episode, which I didn't like as much, but I thought it was okay for what it was, not much of Barry Allen, because as we recall back at the end of the last episode, Barry Allen puts himself back into a cryo chamber to recover, so we was lacking Barry Allen action in this episode. And as we all know, that Caitlin and Frost are now two separate people and now going about their own lives and living in their own apartments, but then they agreed to become roommates, so we got to see more of that in this episode as well. But I don't know, really, it wasn't a terrible episode. It was okay. There was some fun stuff that I did like, but I felt this episode was just a little bit of a filler for me and wasn't really much in the way of big stuff to get your teeth into. But we're now 6 episodes into season 7 of The Flash, and not a whole lot's going on at the moment, and I don't know really what to think. I'm not really sure what's going to actually happen yet. I mean, we haven't seen much of Earth Prime's Harrison Wells. I know he went travelling to try and find his wife, but I would like to see him back because I really miss him. But aside from all that, this episode was half fun but half average. That's my honest take on that. So with that all said, let's get right into it. Let's talk about episode 6, the one with the 90s. So after a brief 24 hours earlier moments that hints at the issues that are to come, we see at Star Labs Barry Allen is still remaining in the cryo chamber to recover, and we see the Speed Force in the form of Nora Allen is nervous and worried, and she believes that the other forces, specifically Psyche and Feruza, who attacked her, may come back to harm her again. She's not clear on who they are and is still trying to figure out her new situation, having just been reborn. She has come to Barry for protection. Chester then explains that he's come up with a device that will detect the isotopic signatures of the known forces Psyche and Feruza, thus giving them advance warning, but since they haven't encountered the other forces yet, it won't help in that regard. Armed with what they have, Cisco and Chester go out to set up a series of amplifiers that will serve as early warning systems. While they're setting up the amplifier devices, Cisco and Chester's devices shorts out, but they are soon after struck by an energy field. Although unharmed, their sensor for their device is fine, but their phones are missing, as is the van that they arrived in, and Chester runs right into a force field that they can't get past. They walk to a nearby Mason vial and soon learn that they are back in 1988, realising they have somehow time travelled. Now this was actually quite fun. This side of the episode, wearing all the old clothes from the 90s and seeing all the old shops and blockbusters as well, that was a nice cool little geek moment. That was fun. I enjoyed that side of the episode. I thought that was really good. They quickly realise they are dealing with the temporal force and need to find their time god. They decide to modify the sensor using junk parts to turn the sensor into a detection device. It leads them to the high school, which prompts them to get a mini makeover in 90s appropriate clothing to blend in. Yeah, this scene where Cisco and Chester go into the high school wearing the old 90s clothes with the baggy pants and, you know, the hoodies, that was funny. I quite enjoyed that. Back in the present and in Central City, Nora continues to worry about Barry. She and Iris begin to talk and bond a bit, with Iris telling Nora some personal stories about Barry. She even takes Nora home with her to show her how Barry coped with things, and in the process reveals that Barry rarely talks about his mother because it's just too painful. Nora races off. Iris later finds her at Jitters, upset and feeling terrible that she's causing Barry so much pain by appearing in the form of his mother. Iris suggests that instead that Nora is giving him a gift of peace and comfort, reminding her that while she is Barry's lightning rod, Nora is the lightning. At the school, Chester and Cisco gather information by pretending to interview people for the yearbook. They eventually encounter the football team equipment manager, Parker, who they initially think could be their time god, but it turns out to be someone trapped in the time loop as well. When a mention of the Matrix suddenly jolts Parker into breaking free from the loop, it starts all over again. This was actually funny because that is actually true, that the Matrix didn't actually come out till 99, and Cisco goes, yeah, me and my boy here, we just went to see the Matrix, and the guy just replies back to him and says, dude, Matrix not out till another year. So that was quite funny. Cisco briefly has no memory of things and thinks he's a child, which he would have been in 1998, but Chester was shielded by the sensor he was carrying. They have to figure out how to fix that sensor so they'll be protected if the loop starts over again. The parts that they need is at Chester's childhood home, but upon learning the specific date they're reliving, Chester blanches at the idea of going there and instead looks for another source for the parts. They try to get the piece, but a man buys the last one from the store, and the man turns out to be Chester's father, who he doesn't really get on well with. And we learn a little bit more about Chester's backstory when Chester tells Cisco that his father cared more about his work than him, and that he died the next day, December 5th, 1998. After talking with Cisco, who suggests that maybe Chester is there the day before his dad's death for a reason. Chester is still unwilling to face his dad, still believing that his dad cares more about his work than his son. Cisco offers to go instead. Chester ultimately decides to go himself and discovers that what he understood about his father was wrong. The elder Mr. Runk worked all the time for his son, and that young Chester was his whole world. He also reveals that he has thrown the part away so that young Chester can find it in 2 days' time while he's on the road, and he does this to teach him to see treasure where others see trash. The pair end up eventually working together with something for the sensor, with Chester never revealing his actual identity. Good. Well done for following time travel rules. As Cisco and Chester prepare to leave, their time god finds them. It's Dion, the football star who created the loop on that Pacific day because he feels he has no future due to an injury that ends his football dreams. Sounds a bit like a cyborg. As he rages and prepares to reset the loop and trap Cisco and Chester, waves of temporal energy start messing with things in the present day, and we see Frost, Caitlin, Joe and Iris all end up with a retro-style makeover, while weird things from the past start popping up in Central City, as we saw at the beginning of the episode. This was funny because you see Caitlin as a hippie, you see Frost as some sort of something from the 80s, Joe's like in full 1930s gangster crime noir sort of look, and Iris all comes out and with a big hairstyle like something out of Night Fever. You know, that was quite fun. I quite enjoyed that a lot. While Cisco is unable to stop Dion with the device, Chester appeals to his emotions, revealing that while he can't change the past, he can look at it with fresh eyes, and the future remains unwritten if only Dion lets go of the past. It works, but Dion also decides that he can control the future for everyone. He vanishes and the time loop ends. Barry gets out of the cryo chamber. They can't find Dion, and it seems that Dion has no idea the Speed Force is alive. Cisco names the forces Steel Force and Strength Force and Sage Force. Iris invites Nora to come stay in their house at their loft. Barry goes along with it but seems to be very uncomfortable about it. In the lab, Chester gets out the parts and plans for what his father was working on and says he's going to finish what his dad started. Joe goes to talk with Frost and tells her about Kramer being out to arrest her and suggests that she stay low, and Frost flat out refuses. Frost says, well, if that's what she wants, then bring it on, I say. And that's how this episode ends, and that wraps up my review for episode 6. Overall, half and half. There was some fun stuff in this episode, but there was some stuff that I didn't care for that much. The first half of the episode where Cisco and Chester were trapped in 1988 was probably my favourite part about this episode. I really enjoyed that a lot. And the other parts, seeing the rest of Team Flash all decked out in different era of clothes from like the 60s to the 80s, that was quite fun, and even a little bit of the 30s as well. So I enjoyed that a lot. But other than that, this episode was pretty normal, really. It just felt like a bit of a filler, but I'm looking forward to episode 7. Hopefully that might be better, but time will tell, really. So that's it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you think of episode 6? Did you enjoy it? What was your thoughts on Chester and Cisco going back to 1988? Did you enjoy that episode, that part of the episode? And also, what did you think of the rest of Team Flash all being decked out in retro clothes? Did you find that funny? And also, what's your thoughts on the Speed Force in the form of Nora staying at Barry and Iris's house? Do you think something could happen there? And why do you think Barry would be uncomfortable about that? Do you think it's due to the fact that the Speed Force has the face of his mother? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Flash Season 7 review series, where I'll be talking about episode 7, which I am very much looking forward to talking about. So until next time, take care everybody, and stay safe.